Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Regular Exclusive, the podcast for people who talk about movies way too much. Hey, Renee, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. You ready to talk about this movie?
Yeah, enough chit chat. Let's just get into it. This one, I'm excited.
I think to be in theme with the movie, we need to talk about the movie and then talk about it again and again and again and just see how it evolves, kind of like
for
the
like
movie.
40 years at least.
Yeah. All right. Well, today we are talking about Palm Springs, or as I call it, my COVID classic. This movie is a Hulu original. It came out in July 2020. And quick overview of the movie. It's a pretty simple plot. Two people, well, actually three people, they are stuck in a time loop. They were all wedding guests and they are living their life the same day at a time, and all while building some emotions through it.
That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. This movie, pretty small cast, but it's starring Andy Samberg, Kristen, and I screw up this last name every time. Is it Milioti?
Sure.
Milioti?
I don't know. That sounds pretty good. I think Milioti.
Yeah.
But
And then our Lord and Savior, J.K. Simmons.
also known as J. Jonah Jameson. That's just what I always think of.
Spider-Man!
Exactly.
So
I love him.
He's amazing, and we'll definitely talk about him. This movie, Rotten Tomatoes, scored 95%. It's pretty solid for a comedy. In the little bit of research I did, I was shocked by this. The film broke the sales record at Sundance Film when Hulu purchased it for $17.5 million. This is the shocking part. The previous record was Birth of a Nation, 1915.
Wow.
Maybe I'm getting all the timing on that wrong, but I was just like,
is that with inflation?
Maybe.
Are you telling me that the Birth of a Nation was sold for like just under 17.5 million in 1915?
No, Birth of a Nation set the record according to the internet. We don't know what the record was, but
this is Wikipedia.
Google.
Oh, okay. You know what? I'll buy it. I think it sounds totally believable. And Birth of a Nation, they're their own category now.
The funny thing to me is that this film was bought for 17.5 million, but it's a straight to streaming movie, so there's not really a box office.
That's a different way. They measure that now totally differently, though, because it's about who's streaming it, how many people are signing up for the service, the amount of ads that they're playing and getting money for. There's it's like a totally different revenue stream. But
we'll never know that.
Did they buy it before the pandemic?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, they did. Okay. So they were maybe planning to release it, but just had to adjust.
So it was released, apparently, some box office in the US and Canada in 2020. So most theaters were shut down. Was a gentleman's $164,000.
Wow.
Worldwide, only 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So Hulu paid way more than any sort of box office they got. But I think they got their money back because this movie apparently broke all the Hulu records at the time.
Yeah, I believe it. It's also like really great. And, Hulu, it just seems weird that they would buy it to like release in theaters, like, and try that. They're trying to probably get their money on streaming anyways. So kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's like that whole thing. I don't know how to measure that nowadays. Like since movies were coming out like same day in theaters and at home, I'm like, I love the theater, but man, I don't have to put on pants to watch this at home.
I'm not sure if this movie would have been a hit in theaters. But I do think it would have become a cult classic.
Totally.
I think this movie, just people would have just talked about it and it got big from it. Kind of like The Hangover.
Yes, that was.
Like The Hangover was just like a word of mouth movie that.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so some other movies that came out in the COVID year of 2020, just to kind of give us all the time frame. Some horror movies like The Empty Man. I know you and I love that. The Night House, pretty good. Wonder Woman 2, the not good one. Birds of Prey, underrated movie.
I love Birds of Prey.
So good.
So good.
Tenet, no one knows what's going on.
Yeah, that movie was too confusing.
Yeah.
But we've already well, I'll bring that up every time that movie is mentioned, FYI, because I need someone to explain it to me and then someone else to explain that. Anyways, keep going. You're good.
There was, a good chunk of movies that came out in 2020. It was also the year
Staten Island.
King of Staten Island. I've never seen it.
Oh, that's the Pete Davidson movie that Judd Apatow did with him.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty funny. It's really long and it's like not as like hilarious as I thought it would be, but it's like it's got something to say. It's really good. Same with The Hunt is like another fun horror movie that came out that year that like Trump made this whole deal about. It kept getting delayed because it was the movie about Democrats kidnapping Republican people and hunting them for sport on this like place or this manor in like Europe, and it's a comedy and a horror. It's amazing.
Wow, I've never heard of this, but I want to watch it.
Damon Lindelof wrote it, I believe, with somebody else.
It's real confusing halfway through. All right.
No, actually, it's not yet. It's not like Lost, but yeah, it's good. I recommend it.
All right, solid. Well, and then we had the Oscar winner, Nomad Land, a very beautiful movie.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get into it. Let's start. Let's talk about the movie.
Okay. Well, first, why don't you tell me why you wanted me to watch this movie so bad? Like, I'm really glad that you had me watch it, but I'd love to know like what got you excited about having me watch it.
Yeah. There's so many reasons why I wanted you to watch this movie. So 2020 was real hard for a lot of people. And especially at this time in 2020, we had just gone through like the very beginning of COVID when everyone thought it was just like a flu. And then turns out they were wrong. And then they're like, oh, it's going to go away in the summer. Maybe it got a little bit better. And then it spiked and everything shut down again. Palm Springs came out in July and it was just like, it was the pick me up that I needed. I just needed something good, something funny. And I really didn't expect very much of it because it was a Hulu original movie. If at that point, Netflix had never put out a good movie. They put out good shows, but never a good movie. So like streaming movies.
There's definitely been some.
Okay.
We'll fight about that another day.
I didn't have expectations for streaming movies. And then we just watched this because I saw that it was a time loop movie and I love time loop movies. And so I watched it and it was just the best experience. It was just so great. I think I watched this probably 4 or 5 times the rest of the year. Like it was just like the ultimate pick me up and it's so fun. It's so good. It's just constant laughs. And when you said that you've never seen it before, I'm like, this is right up Renee's alley. She has to see this. So I'm glad that you actually watched it and I'm glad that you liked it because man, do we have so much to talk about.
We have a lot and it's all good things. This was a great movie and I'm really glad that I watched it. I wish I would have seen it in 2020 because that's like 1000% when I could have used that pick me up. But yeah, I love it. I definitely feel like it's an instant, like I'm going to be rewatching this multiple times, Yeah, we should get into it then.
Let's get into it.
This movie fits perfect into like great time loop movies. I guess TV counts too, because there are some of those. But
time loop content.
Oh, God, I hate that word though. Content. It's just like, it's too much.
I love time loop movies. I very specifically though put this into a subcategory of time loop movies, and this subcategory, I love every movie I've ever seen in it. And that subcategory is stuck in a time loop movie. There's time traveling movies or time loop movies like Donnie Darko or Looper.
Yeah.
They are they are doing weird forms of going back into the past, or they're seeing versions of their future, and they're in this
butterfly
loop.
effect kind of, because that one he goes back to the same points multiple times. That's like why I always think of it as like a time loop.
I think the big difference between time loop movies and stuck in a time loop movie is, one, the people stuck, it's involuntary. So Ashton Kutcher in that, or Donnie Darko or Looper, like they are choosing in some sense to go through.
Yeah.
They're choosing to travel, but then also they are reliving one moment, like one day, over and over and over again. So it's
and like if they die or go to sleep, it just starts over. Basically, there's a reset. So technically, though, even if it's not actually like sci-fi, technically, 50 First Dates is technically a time loop movie. I feel bad.
You could argue it earlier. You could argue it. I didn't think about it, but like it's pretty good argument.
Most realistic version of a time loop because only if your brain and Memento, I guess, too.
No, Memento it's backwards.
Okay, so it's a backwards time loop. Excuse me, but same fucking thing, right?
It's not a time loop. It's just played backwards.
All right, I haven't seen that movie in forever, so
I just rewatched it.
But doesn't he forget everything every day?
Yeah, but that's why he plays it backwards. He forgets things, but he doesn't relive the same day.
Okay, yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying is that I guess you're right. Okay, 50 First Dates, she technically does live the same day for a long time over and over because her dad and her brother set it up that way. Yeah, so she is technically.
Yeah, her experience is a time loop.
Yeah, but they're not stuck there. She is, but she doesn't know she's stuck, right?
It's actually interesting. We're watching the outside of the time loop in that.
But you never normally. Yeah, it's weird. I think it's an interesting point. I think we can throw it in the category.
I'm going to put it in that category.
Yeah, I'm going to choose to think of it that way.
It's a great movie. But so I love those movies. I'm going to list these movies. It all starts with The Godfather, Groundhog's Day.
I thought you were going to say The Godfather. And I was like, no. Okay, that's another one I have not seen. I know. Terrible, but
you mentioned it several times.
There's no time loops in there, right?
Oh, The Godfather. Gotcha.
That's what I thought you meant. Yeah, no. Groundhog's Day. Yes, I'm embarrassed about it.
1993 is when that came out. Then we didn't get another Stuck in a Time Loop till 2011 with Source Code.
And that one's like a weird time loop, right? Because he's like in a remote place and he's trying to.
He's kind of like plugged into a computer. Right? He's like plugged into a computer.
He's plugged into a computer simulation.
Yeah.
But it's like also the same day and he can actually make a difference.
Yeah.
But
it's the train blows up. It's a time loop with a mystery. He has to solve the mystery.
I love that because it's like a little detective spin, but he's like a soldier or something. And then there's another big twist at the end of that one, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it like he's been dead the whole time or something?
Well, yeah. It's like his brain is plugged in, and then like the ending of it, I need to rewatch it, but it's like the ending is like he solves the mystery, but then like his brain gets sentient in the simulation and then he lives on, and I don't know, something weird.
Oh yeah, I don't remember any of that, but I want to rewatch it now. But I do know, it's like the big twist, and kind of it's always my favorite twist when it's like she's been dead for 10 years and you're like, what? I love it. I always just assume that's what's happening in every movie.
But it's weird that there's almost a 20-year span before another one of those movies. And like Groundhog's Day
did it so well, probably.
But like it was a successful movie.
They didn't make sequels?
No. It was a successful movie. And
that is weird.
It's kind of weird that no one copied it because I feel like Hollywood is always copying each other. So
that they didn't make a whole franchise out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe he was busy with Ghostbusters still. I don't know.
It's like, there's always like pairs of movies that come out together, like White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen.
Yes. Or like Deep Impact Armageddon.
Yeah.
Like same year, same fucking plot. Literally.
So it's just weird that there's like a 20-year gap. And then God bless the 2010s, because the 2010s just make up for old times. Because from 2010, we have Source Code and then Edge of Tomorrow, which is
I haven't seen that one.
That's maybe one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies.
That's like Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
It's like a shockingly good sci-fi movie.
Some good movies, but yeah,
is that your hot take that Tom Cruise has some good movies?
I'm just saying that, like, especially in like I just always feel like he always is in good movies. Like even if it's not that great, he's pretty great. I like him. So
we have Edge of Tomorrow in 2014, and then Happy Death Day in 2017, which
my favorite
classic. That and the sequel, both great.
They're unbelievably good.
Then 2019, Russian Doll, which is just
I have not watched
it's
it.
pure art to me. It's so good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's so good.
I love her.
She's
Natasha, what's her name? Natasha
Leone.
Leone. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
she's
love her.
incredible. And
Okay.
that show is her, one other woman, I forget her name, and then Amy Poehler.
Really?
They
oh yeah, you know what? I
wrote that
I heard
show
about
together.
that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's amazing. Highly recommend both seasons. Great. Yeah, and so 2019, and then we get this in 2020. So like we just get a decade of great stuck in a time loop movies. And it's just
so are you saying source code is responsible? Because maybe it sounds like it is.
Source code was the pioneer to bringing it back.
Yeah.
It's maybe the least successful of all these movies, but source code, they went there.
All right. So then I think we should move on now. We've covered.
All right.
There's so many more time loop movies than I even thought to. I was thinking like I could name 3 off the top of my head. And then I was like, oh shit. Yeah.
Well, one that I know that you haven't seen that you have to see is Looper.
Yes. Okay. But
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's
like time travel,
makeup?
like, or just time loop?
No. It's time travel. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a killer for hire.
Yeah, it's like an assassin, right?
And the people that he kills are people from the future. So people in the future send people to the past to get assassinated. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of those people that assassinates them. And one of the people that gets sent back is his future self, Bruce Willis.
So he has to kill himself. I love this already.
He tries to kill himself. It doesn't go right. And so then the story goes from there.
What do you mean about his makeup?
Well, if you haven't noticed, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis look nothing alike.
Yeah.
So Joseph Gordon-Levitt wears these prosthetics to look more like Bruce Willis, because Bruce Willis is not going to.
I was about to say he's like
Bruce Willis is like,
pay me a hell of a lot of money if you want to cover this beautiful face.
But like,
which I would also say the same thing as Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but he's also like, it's kind of cool to be able to look like Bruce Willis. Why not?
Like he wears these like bright blue contacts, and but it's a great movie, and
putting it on the list.
Emily Blunt is on it, so that's not a loop movie, but it's a time travel
in the
movie.
Name, so I feel like it kind of counts.
Well, the loop is their life. They're not stuck in this.
Technically a loop, though. Okay.
But
anyways, I won't be technical. Yeah. I have a lot of things that I thought of that I was like, yeah, I guess these don't actually count, but in my mind they do, and I think that is important.
Time travel as a whole is a big category.
Mm-hmm.
So I just recommended this movie to my mom.
Oh yeah, she would love this.
I think this movie is timeless, and I think it's a movie that everyone can enjoy.
Oh,
I would not say that about any of the other movies that we listed of like Happy Death Day, Edge of Tomorrow, Source Code.
They're all very specific to a certain genre and type of person. This one has so much of everything, you could really recommend it to anybody. The only other movie I could think of that has like multiple people in a time loop situation is that horror movie In the Tall Grass, which came out in 2019.
Never seen that.
It's like one of the Netflix movies. It's really good. It's based on a short story by Joe Hill and Stephen King, which is Joe Hill is his son. And it's like a really short story. Like I read it and was like, wow, this is fucking short. I was shocked that they were going to make a movie out of it. Cause it's like literally these people pull over on a road trip, these brother, sister, they hear a kid in this really tall grass, obviously from the fucking name, we're going to be in the grass. And he sounds like he's calling for help. So the sister goes in after him. And then once she's in there, it's like a maze and she can't get out. And then the brother goes in and they jump up and like every 2 seconds, they're like further and further, they're moving without knowing it. And there's like other people come in and then they are like going back further in time. And so they interact with each other at different stages. It's really fucking confusing, but it is like they can't escape kind of a deal. And there's another couple there, the kid's parents, and the dad is Patrick Wilson. And he's like Jack Torrance in The Shining vibes right there. Cause he's like, I've gone crazy. I've touched the big rock here. And now I love the grass. And like, you need to join with me or die. Like weird shit. It gets really fucking disturbing too. But it's like the only thing I could think of where like multiple people are in a time loop situation. Cause I noticed that this was different that way. I was already like, oh, that's cool. Because then it's like a new spin on it, like you were saying. So it was fun to have like a romantic side of things versus like it works. I think it works well for like a romantic comedy having multiple people in it. And then same with like a horror movie, because I mean, I would be the first person to go insane after that. I think, especially if I was trapped in some fucking grass. I am hella allergic to grass. That sounds like my fucking nightmare. And it's like muddy and disgusting. Oh God. And there's like dead things around because those things don't move. Oh God. It's actually a decent movie. Like I recommend it. It sucks because this is maybe my scariest situation to be in a horror movie or any kind of movie, because my go-to get out of jail free card in any scenario that's like really upsetting, I would just kill myself. And so this movie, I was like, man, that's gotta be fun. Like if you can't just kill yourself, like that really is like hell, right? Not saying that like I'm dying to kill myself, but like if I woke up tomorrow,
you want to remove yourself from the equation.
Yeah, exactly. If it's a horrible scenario that there's no escape from, right? Like if I wake up and I'm stuck in a time loop forever and every time I kill myself, it just starts over. I mean, I think I would literally go insane. I think I would. I think your mind can't handle that. Like my mind would break instantly. That's why I would always go, I'll just kill myself instantly, because then I won't have to deal with the descent quickly into madness, because I know it's coming.
Well, it's kind of like Andy Samberg says that one point he's just like, well, we don't really have a choice but to live.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is like, it means something different too. Like obviously take every day for, you don't want to take any day for granted. Yeah. You want to make the most of life, but it's also like literally though, that is pretty freaking scary if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, trapped for eternity, doing the same thing over and over again. That is like literally the definition of insanity.
But this just popped into my head. Maybe the reason people don't go insane in these scenarios is because when they wake up, they also return to their current mental state of that day.
I guess you're right. They do. No, wait, they don't. No. Because I was like, well, because when he talks to him at the wedding. Things. Yeah, they have to remember everything.
But remembering things and a mental state are two different things.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of things that like I don't want to remember, but they like are like forever burned into my mind, and they do affect like everything in my mind. So yeah, I would say like there's a lot, like there's some things you just can't get over is what I'm trying to say. And in 90% of like a horror or sci-fi scenario, I think my mind would break if my body didn't first. That's what I think.
All right, let's talk about this wonderful film. I was blown away by every person in this movie. The entire casting, I think, is flawless. And it especially sticks out to me because I like Andy Samberg. He's never been one of my favorite people ever, but I think he's incredible in this movie. I think Kristen is also, it's like a coming out party for her. She is so amazing, good. And then
they have good chemistry too.
Oh yeah. And I think J.K. Simmons, like he's
always great.
Just amazing. But Andy Samberg, let's start with him. I loved how this movie starts. Like a lot of like time loop movies, like you see them enter the time loop. And I love how this movie starts with Andy has just been living in the time loop. And without saying it, you just get it. Like he is that so was exactly what I noticed
like right away. Like literally, I think within 5 minutes, I was just like, yeah, he's definitely been here a minute. Like he's 100%. Like everything that he's doing is like so perfect. And like, yeah, it was just, he had the right thing to say at every moment. He was doing the right, like perfect timing. They give you plenty of hints without saying, hey, FYI. He's like, oh yeah, this is like day 500 and whatever,
Yeah.
They don't spell it out for you, but you like instantly are like, okay, yeah, he's definitely been here for a minute.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's great with this movie. It's so self-aware that it's a time loop movie.
Yes, which is
And
fun.
and so like it just doesn't require very much setup. Like people get it. And so yeah, like the fact
We've
that it
seen enough
starts,
of them.
yeah, like it starts with him just like so over it. Yeah, like he has sex with his girlfriend, and it's like probably the thousandth time that they've done it, and it's not doing it for him.
My favorite part about that, she's like, "Oh, you're taking too long." Like when they're fucking, and then she's like, "I got to get ready." And then she's over like at her suitcase, and she's like, "My grandmother's ring, it's gone." And he's just standing there, continuing to fucking masturbate and staring at her, just like with this look of like just totally nothing in his face, and it's just so fucking funny. I was like, of course, Andy Samberg is already masturbating like a minute into this movie. It was wonderful. And her continuing to freak out and like yelling the whole time while he's doing it, like, oh no. And he's just like still fucking going. I was dying. I was like, I'm in on this movie already.
Yeah. It's great because like you get his whole vibe in the first 5-10 minutes. And then it just makes the rest of the movie so much easier with him talking about how like he's tried everything. Like he's killed himself in every way imaginable. It's totally believable because yeah, from that very first scene, you're just like, this guy is over everything.
Yeah, he really is. And I love that in movies. Like, I feel like this is also something specific to time loop movies where I love how people just get super casual about dying in those movies. I mean, granted, like they're like, oh yeah, it hurts. But like also they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it in all these crazy ways. And I'm like, I think I would still just do the same peaceful method each time, or like instant death. Like I'm like, even if I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow, that still seems unpleasant. Like I'm just going to do it a normal way. Although like when he's in the car and she's like driving and he's like, just puts his head on the fucking like dashboard, just bracing for impact for a quick death.
Nothing worse than slowly dying in an ICU.
Yep. I have that written down. Yes. It was so good. I was like, that's the line of the movie almost.
And then I love every second of the wedding and the reception the first time around. Like he's just
everything he's doing.
He's in his Hawaiian shirt, drinking a beer at the
wedding.
Shorts. In his shorts.
Yep.
And then like the entire reception sequence is just incredible, from the insane speech that he gives.
Yeah. Exactly. That was like the moment that it's like, if you haven't figured out that he's in a time loop already, like this ought to do it. Because everything about him up to that moment, you're like, okay, wait a minute. That's not real. And then also I was like totally like obsessed with how he was on the dance floor because it was so fucking funny. I mean, I could have watched another 10 minutes of just that scene alone. It was so good.
Oh yeah. And just like, he's constantly making eye contact.
Yeah.
with the girl, Sarah. And just like, he's just like dancing around people and just like knows every move. And it's like, he's done this 1,000 times.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like if it's somebody maybe that like could be read the wrong way, you're like, this guy's a freak. But Andy Samberg just has this really sweet charm. I liked seeing him so like deadpan and everything sucks and nothing matters. But it was like, because he does have a dry sense of humor sometimes, but he's also like so goofy and like positive sometimes, like a lot of the time. So it was fun seeing a totally different side to him. And even some serious stuff, which he could totally be in a dramatic movie. I mean, this might be a great segue for him to kind of start it. It might take a minute because of all the Lonely Island, jizz in my pants, all that stuff.
He was great. And then, that leads to Kristen Milioti. I'm sorry, I'm getting that terrible. But she is amazing. Like the whole movie, I'm just like saying, like, the only thing I had seen her in prior to this is she's the mother in How I Met Your Mother.
Oh, I've never seen her. And I thought I was like, she looks like she looked familiar, but I could not fucking place her. And then I was like, I feel like she looks like a combination of like Allison Hannigan from How I Met Your Mother. And then, which is funny that my brain went there, and Anna de Armas or something, like their love child. If you combine them
Interesting.
both, I feel like the face, because it took me a while to figure that out.
I probably didn't even recognize her at the time, but like I had no frame of mind that like this is a comedic actor.
Mm-hmm.
And like she goes pound for pound with Andy Samberg in this movie. Like
Oh yeah,
the entire movie.
she just lets loose and like with the cop.
Yeah.
I was just fucking dying because that was so good. She was just
Like,
like, officer, like she's like, he's trying to kill me, and like runs away and shit. It was just like so fucking good. It's like I would want to have that kind of fun too.
yeah.
Like I think that would be like the best part of being in a time loop would be at first. I mean, granted, 40 years or however long you're fucking stuck there, it's gonna be shitty eventually,
Yeah.
but at first it's like I loved how much fun she was having with it because I was like, that would be fucking fun.
Yeah. My wife, she always loves the scene right after she wakes up and tackles him in the pool.
Tell me what the fuck is going on.
Yes, I know.
And,
We
like,
were dying.
she's screaming underwater. Like,
yeah. And
always
she's like
loses her
throwing
mind.
the beers at him.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hurt you, Chuck. And so
Yeah.
she starts fucking throwing them. I was dying. It was
she's
so good.
She's so good. And yeah, and they have amazing chemistry.
They
Those
really
two.
do. Like being with Andy Samberg in a movie, it seems like, he's so funny and like I almost feel like it'd be like hard to share the screen and be like actually take up space next to him. And she really fucking does, man. I was very impressed. I thought she was great. I loved their chemistry, but a lot of she just had a different kind of humor, but she was so funny. Like when I think it's the same morning that she wakes up and then there's like, they are fighting or whatever. And then like her sister, the bride, her teeth fucked up. And then she's like, they're all like saying like, oh, it's okay or whatever like that. And then she just fucking like pukes in the garbage can. She's like so fucking like, what is happening? Why is this happening?
And then the whole time Andy Samberg's just like, she'll be fine in the morning.
Yes, exactly. I know. And I liked how it like started off with him again right after like the first one. And then when he sees her again, like in the pool, it then goes back and like starts off. I mean, granted, you don't get that much scenes, but it goes right back to like, okay, now we're getting her day so far.
Yeah.
Which is literally just being confused and then throwing beer cans at him when she sees him in the pool. 100%. They had great chemistry, which is like 100% necessary for this because like, if you look at him saying, oh, I've tried this 1,000 times or whatever. We've totally like hooked up thousands of times. It's like, yeah, that's really weird. That's creepy, right? Because she can't fucking remember that. And it can be really sketch. I mean, it kind of goes like a little bit towards the line, but yeah, it's like Andy Samberg is super charming. And also like, he doesn't come off as a creep, but we never saw any other times. We don't know what the fuck he did.
Yeah. Well, we did see some of the
some
people.
of them. Yes. Those were great.
I mean, it's pretty safe to assume that he fucked everyone at that
the wedding.
except for the bride and groom. He tried the bride.
I love that part when he's like, mind if I cut in? It's like, why not? Like that would be the fun shit. Yeah.
But yeah, I think she was so good and their chemistry, this movie would be terrible if they didn't have that chemistry. Because like you look at a lot of other time loop movies, they really kind of focus on one person. And
yeah, that's a good point.
Like
not like multiple people.
Yeah, like the OG is Groundhog's Day. And like that movie is carried by Bill Murray. But yeah, like they are together so much. If they sucked, then this movie's terrible. Yeah. Also, speaking of chemistry, and I think my favorite character in this movie, J.K. Simmons as Roy, is just... I
literally was like, who the fuck is Roy? Like so many times because I was like, I have to know more. Because he just shows up the first day that we see Andy Samberg go through. Then he gets shot by a fucking arrow. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And it's J.K. Simmons.
I think that's my favorite line in the movie is like he gets shot. And he's like, you're a sick fuck, Roy.
Yeah. And I'm like, who is Roy and why is he hunting him? And I was like, Roy must obviously be in on this time loop shit because it was really funny for a while because I was like, I didn't know what they were gonna do with this character, and I just was so obsessed with it when I found out. But I feel like for like a long time, it was like I was getting like Jumanji vibes of like the hunter that comes out of the game and is always like after Robin Williams, and you're like, what? Why is he so relentless? But it's like I loved his introduction. I thought it was I wasn't expecting it to be J.K. Simmons at first, and then I was like, oh boy.
I don't even know if I saw a full trailer for this movie. So like
I never did. Yeah.
I didn't even realize he was in it. So like when they're on the rock making out and then like he's getting naked and then he gets hit with the arrow, I was just like, what?
Yeah, me too.
And then Kristen's reaction where she just starts screaming.
Oh, fuck! What the fuck is happening?
I thought I smelled you, you piece of shit!
Oh my god! What the fuck? What the fuck is happening? Oh my god! Holy fucking shit! What? The fuck?
It was just
Exactly.
amazing.
It was so good because I was like, oh, this is like when the movie's like taking a left turn and we're going to somewhere else. And I just love when that kind of stuff comes out of nowhere. And it was perfect. It was literally perfect timing because you're like, oh yeah, they're about to fuck. But then it's like, nope.
Yeah. And then realizing it's J.K. Simmons, I'm like, are you serious? Like,
yes. And I was like trying to decide the whole movie because I love their like relationship in this movie. I love them together in movies all the time. I also like love them in I Love You Man. That movie. Remember he plays
he
Paul
plays
Rudd's
the
brother.
dad.
And then J.K. Simmons, is the dad. And he's always like, oh, really? Like, who's your best friend? And he goes, Robbie. And it's like Andy Samberg. It's like his best friend. He's like, yeah, him and Hank Mardukas or whatever. And it's like, I love, and then Andy Samberg in that movie, he's like gay, but he like is like always hitting on the straight guys that he trains at the gym. And he gets them to like leave their wives.
Because
So
seducing gay guys is too easy.
Yeah,
he's like,
exactly.
I need a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, I love that. It was so good. And I love they're not that much together in that movie. They're like, they're not really in the movie that much, but that is always one of my favorites when I see them. And I was trying to decide, like, I love this movie now too, though.
Well,
like
and
their whole bit back and forth, it's more of like aggressive, but it changes. It really surprised me.
Well, and that scene towards the end when they like reconcile.
Yes.
That was just
deep.
J.K. Simmons reminding everyone that he's an Oscar. Did he win for the drumming
Whiplash?
movie? Yeah. Did he win the Oscar for that? Regardless, he is that caliber of actor. He's just
checking it.
He's just
yes,
reminding.
He did.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to say yes so bad, and I should know that 100%.
I think he can do any role.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
He's just unbelievable.
He's just always good. You can always count on him. Like he's just wonderful. I love him. He's so funny. He can be really dramatic and like really like, J. Jonah Jameson, like screaming all the time, really extra. And then other times he's got this really quiet like knowledge, and I don't know. He can do it all. I think I'm convinced.
And I love when actors do movies that I wouldn't expect them to do.
Yes.
And
totally.
like I would not expect J.K. Simmons to do a movie like this, and he does it. And
they're in another movie,
awesome.
Right? I think that just that Chip and Dale movie that just came out. Like they both voice characters in it, and like so does John Mulaney, and it's like directed by one of the Lonely Island guys. Like people are saying it's actually funny and good, but all I know is I heard today that they were both in that movie, and I was like, this is amazing. It's like their little weird trilogy of movies together.
Oh man. The rest of the cast, like they place
the
small
girlfriend.
roles,
the girlfriend is so good. Like the actress is so good.
Oh, she's so
bitch sucks.
Yeah,
she
the
sucks
worst.
Instantly. She's literally the worst. And my favorite is like the way that he talks to her because he just stops caring about anything.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Are you cheating on me?" And he goes, "No, you're cheating on me, you goof."
Yeah.
And it's like, and he's always like, "Oh, just shut up and go fuck whatever that guy."
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Oh,
So good. Oh my god. Yeah, she was great. I also loved the guy that was like the really nice guy that he fucked. He's like, "I'm glad I did that. He's a really nice guy. I'm glad I tried it." I was like, oh my God, I love this. And like, maybe a lot of people probably would. If you're stuck in a time loop, might as well. Maybe that's what does it to get you out of here. The other person I wanted to talk about, if that's is the old woman, the
Darla?
grandma. Yeah, is that her name, Darla?
Are you talking about
No,
the
no,
woman,
not the
the
woman
woman
from
at
the
the
bar. No, the one at the wedding. The older
Okay,
woman
yeah,
who
yeah,
comes
yeah.
up and compliments his speech and then talks to her at
Yes.
the end. She's 1,000% in the time loop, right?
I think that's an unanswerable question. Like she
No,
kind of
I think she is. I think they
I-
imply
I-
it with the way that she talks to her at the
Yeah.
end, and now you get to go back or something. I was like, oh yeah, but it's a happy thing
Yeah.
for her because she doesn't have to get old and die, and
Yeah.
she's with her family for every day.
It's kind of like J.K. Simmons. Like
Exactly.
he chooses to stay in the loop.
No, he doesn't. He goes at the end.
No.
Yeah, that he comes up to Andy Samberg in the post-credit scene.
Well, yeah.
And then he's like, I got the message. I talked to your girlfriend last night with her crazy plan. And then Andy Samberg doesn't recognize him. So he's like, oh, it worked. Because he also wants to get out because he wants to see his kids grow up and all that. He's just making the best of it. I was like, somebody has to fucking tell this guy to get out. They can't just leave him there.
Well, she sent him a note saying
Yeah,
they
you
were going to
find
get
that
out
out at the end. But
so then I guess the question is, does
he's
he
like,
actually do it? I felt
think
like he went to the wedding to see if it worked.
Yeah,
Because
me too.
Like he has that whole moment where he's like, today's a good day and I get to be with my kids every day. Like
but he also said before that
maybe
he doesn't get to like see them grow old or grow up into adults, and he doesn't get to like, be with his daughter at the wedding and walk her down the aisle and all that. So I kind of got the vibe that he was like, he's enjoying, like it made him really appreciate his family, but like also he's like, I'm cool to go back. So I was like, when they left, I was like, oh my God, what about J.K. Simmons? We can't just leave that poor guy there. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
I hope she left like detailed enough instructions that he doesn't need to learn quantum physics to replicate.
I mean, it sounds like it's pretty like simple. I mean, granted, she figured all that out. And I would never be able to do that no matter how many days in a row I studied it. So I was impressed. But it sounds like it basically boiled down to walking in there with a fucking bomb on you and blowing yourself up, right?
At the right time. It had to be like midway through.
I would assume she must have told him how to do that. Because if she was like, you'll figure it out. Just blow yourself up at some point.
I absolutely loved that. It's because like some other time loop movies, like they have like moral reasons why it's almost like a purgatory thing. I love
they have to do something to get out in order to be a better person or something.
And I love that they're like, maybe it's this, they think it's that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, nope, it's science. And she goes and learns quantum physics so that she's like, this is how we get out. This isn't morality. It's nothing. It's science. Here's how we get out. Like, I love
exactly.
Like,
but it's like they do think that at first, like they have to be really nice. But then it's like, they get into that where they're definitely not.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it doesn't matter. We're just stuck. Or she's like, fuck that. I'm going to fucking figure this out, which I love that. I love the energy. Reminded me of like Happy Death Day 2. And she has to like, but she has to be able to like write that crazy formula and like teach those nerds how to fucking do it. Yeah. And I was like, no, never could do that. I would never be able to do that. There's just no way. So, I mean, I appreciate that this is an option, but I would rather be stuck in a situation where I just have to do something nice to get out, like that would be more up my alley.
That's ideal.
If I'm doing math, I'm dead already. Like I'm stuck, but yeah, no, I think overall, I think the characters are all great too. They just all felt good and fully fleshed out. And I love, before we like move on to other topics, I did want to say that when J.K. Simmons and Andy Samberg were doing cocaine, they were like, let's go party. And then I thought it was gonna be coke.
Dance.
Yeah. And then I was like, well, it's like bright colors. What the fuck is that?
Yeah, that was a little
I was like,
weird.
are they actually like snorting? Like, I mean, it sounded like maybe it was like shrooms or some other crazy drug. I don't know. I don't think you snort that though. So I don't know.
Ground those shrooms up.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that a thing? Fuck, that sounds awful. But yeah, I was like, what the fuck drug is that? But whatever it was, I was just like, man, I love that they're just getting into it. And then this is, of course, how they meet. I loved how he was like, oh yeah, I met him like we partied together a long time ago. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be a great story. Great backstory. I almost was expecting this movie to go down a darker path sometimes with that. And like at the end, I was thinking like when he does that whole like speech, which I loved because he's like, comma, like, and he's trying, she only gives him one sentence out of his speech. He's ampersand. And then he's like, I wrote it all down because I was like, these are just too fucking good. And I love, like, I am really good with like grammar and spelling. So I love all that kind of shit. I love stupid shit like that, like emphatic period. And he's like colon, ellipses.
Ellipses.
It's just so good. And he's like extending his one sentence. But I was like, oh, like at the end, maybe like she's gonna be like, fuck you, like you're like an asshole or like you're like a creep, and then like leave without him. So I was like, oh, it's nice that they got together. But I was almost like thinking that happy ending, I was not expecting it throughout the movie because I felt like it really was not building to that point. I thought it was going to build to something that was like, we're not together. We don't need each other. Like, this isn't that movie, even though it was kind of making you think that at the beginning.
I just like,
I don't know. What do you think? Did you expect it?
I just liked her response to the run-on sentence. She's like, that was a grammatical nightmare. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, it was, but that was so cute because he's like just trying so hard and he's not good at that. It was so great. She's like, an emphatic period. That is just an exclamation point.
Yeah. I didn't want to come off desperate.
His straight up humor in this movie is so good because it's just so deadpan and it's great. But so it's just, he's just charming. So I was on board with them getting together if that was the case. But I was almost not expecting it because I thought this movie was kind of setting up a little bit differently, you know?
Yeah, I don't
think it might not be a happy ending or something.
I don't think I ever thought that they weren't going to end up together because, like, I was like, this is a rom-com
there's movies where they don't.
Yeah.
Rare. I mean, the breakup is like, that's the movie that made me think maybe sometimes rom-coms, they don't end up together.
Yeah. I guess I just didn't feel like while I was watching the movie, I wasn't necessarily watching it for their romance. I liked them.
No, that they had good chemistry,
like
but it was like a secondary point.
Yeah, like I felt like the development of their relationship and kind of how like they went through the beginning phase of a relationship and then the middle phase where things are getting dull, and then like they fight and break up. It kind of brought everything full circle of like they were stuck together and that's why they started together, but them separating from each other, it like that's what made them realize like, no, this is not just because we are stuck together.
Yeah.
You know,
we actually choose to be together regardless. Yeah. I like that too. I think that's pretty fun. I love that. Like it was more, like light on the romantic and kind of more heavy on the comedy, which is perfect. I think that was like the right mix for this movie.
And it's a little bit different, you know, like we were talking about in the sense of like, this is one of the few things where there's multiple people stuck in the time loop.
Yes.
Like Groundhog's Day, it's
just
all
him,
about,
right?
It's all, the goal is for him to get the girl. And so like, he kind of does that creepy thing you're talking about where like he tries to seduce her and like, it doesn't work. And then
he's like, okay, well, I know that doesn't work. It's like 50 First Dates almost.
Yeah, kind of.
Which is like nowadays you're like
kind of a time loop.
I look at that now and I'm like, yeah, that's creepy. Yeah. That was like the most realistic version of a time loop. If you think about it, 50 First Dates. Yeah. Granted, except for the fact that she remembers him at the end.
Yeah. But like Groundhog's Day, he finally gets the girl, and at that point, like he's accepted his situation, and so he's trying to live in the moment. And then he gets her, and then the loop stops. Spoiler alert, but like, don't worry, that's not what
we're going to be spoiling a lot of fucking movies.
But the difference between Groundhog's Day and Palm Springs is that it's two people in the loop, and so in Groundhog's Day, but in Groundhog's Day, he is trying to get the girl. She doesn't really have a choice
because she's just like forgetting every single day. Yeah.
in Palm Springs, they have to choose each other.
Okay, after a certain point though, but he also said that they had hooked up thousands of times or whatever. So he technically Groundhog's Day is like the prequel to this, is like what you're saying. So
but I'm saying
I'm
the
totally
ending
with you
of Palm Springs, they had to choose each other.
Exactly. They actually made the choice together. I liked that as well because I think that makes a big difference. Like what I was saying with that Twilight Zone thing, like, yeah, she doesn't get any choice in the matter. So it's like rightly like so that she's, that's fucking weird. Why are you doing that? Stop, leave me alone, and then she won't remember. It's like really scary. But
a lot of movies,
a lot of montages. Yeah.
A lot of movies have montages. Time loop movies are defined by their montages. Usually
very true.
Stuck in time loop movies,
they kind of have to.
Their montage is about dying
and
a lot.
Yeah. Or like anything, just because it's like they literally can't show you the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, as much as it would make you feel like, yeah, okay, now I'm in the fucking time loop. Not a fun viewer experience, I think. So that's why they're like, let's just sum it up so you can get the feeling that like, okay, now they've been stuck there for like a while too.
Yeah.
It helps just time move faster and the movie not be 3 hours, which I love.
Yeah. So the fact that this movie had 2 and maybe even 3, actually, no, it has 3, maybe even 4 montages in it.
You have to remind me of all of them because there is a lot that I almost lost track of. The one that really sticks out in my mind, I think, is the one of him with J.K. Simmons, and it's all the ways that Roy has killed him in the past.
So
torture and all these other different things. It was hilarious.
This movie is incredible with how they do that. So the first one is when she accepts their situation. And so it's after he puts his head on the dash and they die. And then
after she's freaked out, which I would do too. They've killed themselves. They start over a second time and she's like, okay, I get it.
Or no, actually, it's after that. They die and then she thinks it's a moral thing.
Oh,
and so then
she's like, we gotta
she
do
has
the right
the
thing.
scene where she tells her sister something.
I need to know what you think about that too.
Yeah, and then walks away. And then she wakes up and she's like, nothing fucking matters. Okay, whatever. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And then we get the montage of them just fucking around.
Exactly. Yes.
And
okay. That was another one I remembered when they're just doing all that crazy shit.
And it culminates. They go to the bar and they do that choreographed dance and
with
hold
the
on to
matching
each other,
outfits.
spinning around,
It's so much fun because it's like, I love the fact that it's like they took the time to learn that dance perfectly. And then they just did that.
They filmed the whole thing.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love that because that's like one of the fun parts about it. That like you realistically, as much as it would suck, you're not like, okay, now I can get out immediately. So might as well like fuck shit up because it's kind of fun. Like I always think that's one of like the cool wish fulfillment ideas of like, what if nothing, not what if nothing mattered? Oh, that's so fun. But I mean, like what if there are no consequences and everything just reset? Like, or like, you could just do what you wanted. That'd be, it's something interesting to think about, kind of fun of all the crazy shit. I love the shit that they get up to. It's all very like, that would be I would have to try that too.
Or like they're driving the car and she's just like in the sunroof living her life. And then he slams on the brakes and then she goes flying and dies.
Like,
and then wakes up, no!
Yeah. Slow down.
Or my favorite thing is it goes to the wedding scene. And then Andy Samberg runs up with a crossbow and he's like, there's a bomb in the cake. He's like, it's all right. Years ago, I was a bomb guy. And then he just like
shoots it. And he just fucking like blows up.
And then she comes out with this weird accent, like Russian accent and an eye patch.
Yes. There was like so much of that fun stuff. And then there was, I think the other one that I also like really enjoyed, and tell me if I'm wrong, this was a montage where it's like him talking about all the different people he's fucked. There's like, multiple people. There's like not just the black guy, and then also the bartender is my favorite.
My favorite.
When she's like giving him a hand job right in the car, and then he's like,
I ran over a man.
I actually ran over a man with this car. And he's like, really? And then she's like, he never walked again. And then it's like, and then he comes immediately, and I just fucking was dying. I was like, I love that as soon as she says that he never walked again, it's just instant. Like he just fucking.
Oh,
It was so perfect. That was
Jace-
hilarious. And she just every time she was on screen, which was like, not very much, but she just always, I loved
she was
her.
there.
She nailed the deadpan delivery. Like
Oh yeah.
talking about that. It was just so fucking funny.
I remember other actors just because I know them from other things.
Like I know who they are, yeah, but
like
it's
the
not
dad.
like,
The dad is Schmidt's dad
oh,
in New Girl.
oh my gosh. That's
He's great.
from the OC, Peter Gallagher, also
Yeah.
Mr. Deeds,
Yeah.
he's been around forever, but his eyebrows, he's got like Eugene
Oh,
Levy
yeah.
kind of eyebrows, I've
Oh,
always
yeah.
felt. But yeah, he was really funny too. And that one, he was like, yeah, and I fucked your dad. And then that whole scene, like, what are we doing here? And I was like, oh my God, no. And then it was like, no, he's like, I'm just kidding. The other one who I think was the best of the supporting was the girlfriend, but she had a lot more screen time than any of the other people.
I loved the groomsman Randy.
Oh God, yeah, he was
Just, like,
so fucking weird and so funny.
elbows.
And he was like, I don't feel safe
Yeah.
anymore with him here. He was so funny. But I think with the bridesmaid, it was like when she stops like when she's doing her speech, and then she just like doesn't start talking. They're she's done. Okay. And then everyone's like, what the fuck? She's like hashtag life goals, right?
Yeah.
She's so good at being the worst.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons murder montage.
That was fun.
That was great. And also they did a great job of explaining why he hates Andy Samberg in just like the shortest amount of time. Like,
I mean, it was very simple, but it was like, yeah, I fucking would hate that guy too, because he suggested him to go in there. Whereas with the main chick, it's like, you got me into this. And it's like, well, technically,
yeah.
I mean, if I'm being honest, he said, don't come in here, go back. And then she did. So it's like, it's kind of your own fault, bitch. But yeah, I guess, he's kind of responsible. For J.K. Simmons, I'd be like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy.
The sex montage and the murder montage are, and I think those are kind of half montages, but then like they're very quick.
Yes, but they are hilarious. And they really make an impact. So that's why they stick out number one. What are the other?
The other two is when Kristen leaves and he's depressed montage.
Yeah. I forgot about that. But that was like, yeah,
like that one's
goes
not
through
fun,
like this. It's another like basically just running through the motions.
Yeah, and that one's not really a funny montage. But this show is great because it has so many different emotions you feel throughout it. Like it's not just a pure comedy.
Exactly. It was okay to have like an actual serious kind of sad monologue. Then monologue, whatever this is called, montage.
And then the final montage is her learning quantum physics montage.
Yes.
Like
they have to do that because or else it's going to be super boring for us. And also no one's going to get it. And it's like, come on. And
they striked a real good balance of like, we cannot talk about quantum physics in this movie, but we can have a montage of her taking classes and
she can sum it up really quick with something high level when she tells him and he'll be like, I don't know what you mean. It's like the same thing as like on Stranger Things. They have the kids explain stuff and you're like, okay, even though like I still don't quite get it. Like they try to make it as palatable as possible, which I think works. And then I read that the guy that she consults on the video cam is like a real like physicist? He's a real physicist and he was consulting on the movie already. And that's why they had him do that. And I was like,
awesome.
And it was all like over Zoom or whatever, like just like how they normally do. So I thought that was funny.
And the other thing that I like is the sad montage and the science montage, they actually complement each other because the science montage gives like an idea of time that he was without her. Like that took it helped years.
They support each other basically.
Like it probably took years for her to like learn that.
Interesting. I didn't think about that.
So he was without her for years.
But I mean, it maybe took her years, but it's also like if you had nothing that you had to do every day except for learn this physics shit and get out of a time loop, I feel like you would spend 18 hours a day. Your brain thankfully is not resetting. So that's cool. Yeah. But like how do you keep notes around, right? How do you keep all that stuff in your mind? Because that's my problem.
You have to learn it over and over and over. That's why I say years.
Maybe, but I don't think it would. I feel like maybe. I don't know.
People get multiple PhDs in that subject.
I mean, I'm just saying I could learn it in a few weeks. I'm just kidding. No, even if I was literally doing nothing and talking to the most smartest person who could tell me, I'd be like Michael Scott, where it's like, tell it to me like I'm 5. And then it's like, okay, now tell it to me like I'm 4.
Yeah.
Like that's still not doing it. Let's go down to like, I'm an infant. Explain it now.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got on the montages. I just wanted to point out how
it was fun how many they had.
It was masterful how they used montages without it getting like, oh my God, another montage.
I mean, I feel like it was
great.
a fun spin on it because every romantic comedy pretty much always has a montage because they always have some issue in the middle. They aren't together. So there's got to be an emotional song.
Got to skip time
with that. Yep. And it's like every single movie. So it's almost like a self-aware thing where they're like, utilizing it in these different ways, but also like kind of joking about it at the same time. I loved it. Yeah, it was fun. I pretty much I have this interesting idea because I feel like this movie doesn't really fit.
Are we sure it's interesting?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure. Well, okay. Now I'm second guessing it because you just said that. So I'm going to say it and we'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
But also fuck you if you don't want to talk about it because I'm going to talk about it anyways. But I feel like this movie is it's kind of a lot of different genres in one. I mean, totally. You have a little sci-fi, you got a lot of comedy. I would say it's probably 70 to 80% comedy still, but it also has a little bit of the romantic comedy elements and a little bit of the mystery. Right. Not really as much horror because all the death is funny. Yeah. But in that way, it feels like a dark comedy to me because not in the way that a typical dark comedy where it's so it's usually pretty extreme, with the violence and with the comedy. I don't know. I think this movie kind of has some darkness to it, even though it's not like that, where it's not extreme about it. It almost has the same vibe as Andy Samberg in the movie. It's very monotone in that way with its darkness, but it'll just say things and kind of move on. But it does have a dark, there's a lot of dark shit that they talk about and life has no meaning and all this stuff. So it's a lot darker than I thought it would be. Honestly, I thought it would be more lighthearted Andy Samberg kind of thing. So I like that. And then, but it also is so funny. So it's funny how it's toned down with compared to normal. It's not so over the top.
You're right. This movie has some pretty dark things to it that if you think about it, you're Jesus, it
had me question, have some existential questions, right?
Well, J.K. Simmons, for however long he's been in there, his life has been dedicated to killing Andy Samberg over and over again to get revenge on putting him in this situation. That is a life driven by the worst
revenge. Yeah.
The worst thing. I think while things are really dark and the situation is not applicable at all, I think the movie is incredibly relatable to everyday life in the sense of Andy Samberg just feels like he's doing the same thing every day. And I feel like everyone in the world has felt like that in some way, especially 2020.
100%. It came out at exactly the right time. I was just supposed to say for having that vibe because we were literally all doing the exact same thing every fucking day. And we were alone, not in the same way as him, but basically
we didn't know what was going on.
And and we didn't know if we were ever going to get out of it. It was very timely that way. And I think that that's what's cool about it. That it had more to say than just this is a funny romance movie, but also don't take it too seriously. Whereas it was no, you should take it. There's some serious stuff to say. That whole scene at the end with him and J.K. Simmons when he's talking about how he spent all that time in the ICU and they wouldn't let him die. And I love because it's that's the worst way to go. And that is actually that is something that people are scared of. And I would be. It sounds horrible. But the fact that it made him kind of see that maybe he shouldn't, that was what it took for him to not want to kill him every day and realize maybe life could be good. I don't know. If you just focus on what you get every day, no matter what loop you're in, if you're in a time loop or not. You should appreciate everything while you have it.
Quick side note, like this movie reminds me a lot of my favorite show of all time, Scrubs,
Mhm.
in the sense of Scrubs is a moment by moment genre. Like Scrubs is a comedy, but there is the deepest moments in when you least expect it in Scrubs. Like you'll be laughing and crying within 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I feel
true
like
that it has a good mix of like the sentimentality without being like Grey's Anatomy level.
Yeah, like this movie, I feel like its genre switches from scene to scene. Like it is a total comedy movie, but then like you'll have the scene like where they go do shrooms out in the desert. And that is such a raw, like deep scene. There's nothing funny happening.
I was expecting it to be a really funny scene because that's like, oh yeah, they're doing drugs. Like this will be fun. But then it's like the dinosaurs. And I read that both actors were like, when I read that scene, that was when I was like, I need to be in this movie.
You kind of see the culmination of Andy Samberg's character and like the problem that he has is like he's lived in this monotony for so long that he doesn't think he'll ever get out of it. And then you see Kristen, she just keeps trying to chip away at him, like getting him to open up, to be vulnerable.
And all she had to do was have sex with him.
Yeah, kind of.
For the millionth time, though, I guess, because it wasn't like the first time.
But this is the first time that she genuinely wanted to have sex with him. Wasn't convinced or whatever. But
I was like, what do you mean? Are you trying to imply that he like raped her?
No, he did not rape her. He knew the cheat code.
Okay, yeah, that's true, I guess.
Yeah, I love that scene, and just she kind of has like this intensity about her. Like she feels a way about him, and she knows that he feels that way about her.
But he's not showing it or letting it
But
happen.
yeah, she knows that he just won't let her in. But also like she won't show her cards until he shows her cards.
What surprised me.
And so like she's trying so hard to just get him to accept that like this situation sucks, but like they're together.
Exactly.
You know, and like that's the difference. Like he's been alone with J.K. Simmons this whole time, but then like she comes.
Fucked, honestly.
Well, he's trying to kill him. He might have.
He might have actually, though. Yeah.
He might have fucked him to death. Who knows? But
oh God.
but yeah, I just really like that scene, and I think that both of them just like the acting is brilliant in that scene. And then they have sex, and then he like wakes up and he's like, oh, I do care about her and I'm super clingy now. But then we get, in my opinion, the best twist of where she wakes up.
Are you saying best twist in a movie ever? I don't know if I go that far, but it's a really good twist.
Sorry. Best twist that I did not see coming. Like I never even
a big category, I feel.
But I never even thought this movie would have a twist. Like
that's true. When movies that you don't expect it to have a twist and then they do, that's always fun.
Yeah, like it's not an important plot point twist, but it is a really important character development
it's just
twist.
That they surprise you.
It adds a lot of depth to the story, which this movie is surprising in how deep it is. She wakes up and she had sex with the groom.
Yeah, the night before the wedding to her sister.
And that changes the entire story for her, because every day she's waking up to that.
That's got to be what she whispered to her sister at the wedding, right?
Yeah. That was 100% what she told her that what happened.
I was like, oh my God, what is she doing? And then I was like, really? Wow. Okay. Yeah. I feel like that for sure, like was totally surprising. And I love that it also like brought back that like seemingly throwaway comment by Andy Samberg about how he recognized the hair mist because he knew a girl who like bathed in it, and he kept saying bye, whatever. Like I forgot the name of it, but it was so
something
funny.
Orchard.
Yeah, it was like something orchard by like Fosse or something. Yeah. Like, and he just said it every single time. I loved it. And then I loved that like when he's like smelling that guy's pillow and he's like, oh, yeah, what? You were in here last night? Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I love that it like comes back. It all comes back.
Well, and when you watch it again, you'll notice how many times they kind of hint to that early in the movie. Like,
oh yeah, I'm sure.
Like there's the scenes earlier on. They're like, where's Sarah? And they're like, she's not in her room.
Oh yeah, I did realize that because they said it again afterwards. And then I was like, Oh,
Yeah.
that's why I was like, why? I just figured it was something to do with the time loop because I was stupid. But yeah, it's like, yeah. And then she's like, oh, I went on the hike. And it's like, oh, yeah. But I was
Yeah.
like, she did just wake up in her room, I thought. So
Yeah.
I
But,
just let that go. I was like, yeah, whatever.
But it's like Andy Samberg wakes up every day essentially with the option to have sex. And she is waking up every day
With the shame
with
of it.
with enormous shame,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just did not see that twist coming, and it just adds so much depth. And then it also is just like she had this super emotional moment with Andy Samberg in the tent on shrooms, and then she wakes up and that great feeling is instantly wiped away because she's reminded she's a shitty person.
I know. I was like, damn, that sucks. And then it was like so funny that he was all like wanting to talk about it. And I was like he's all like, oh, we had sex. Do you have anything? I was like, he's like acting like the girl.
Yeah.
And it's just really funny that like it was just really cool that they added that element for her because it felt like it really gave her some stakes for her character,
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, this is just like a fun comedy movie. And like there was like moments that you were getting from Andy Samberg where you're like, oh, like he's actually like he's gone through some shit. Like it might be funny, but it's like he's also like lost a bit of like a lot of himself. And so it was interesting seeing like how she really like has to start every day. Like you said, it's just two kind of totally different things. Be a lot easier to get along with your time loop if you woke up every day and could have sex versus, oh, right, I just fucked my like sister's groom.
Yeah. Well,
Like-
and then like when they talk again, he like tries to say like he's like, it doesn't matter. Like just wake up and just like leave the room. Like it doesn't matter. And she's like, it does matter because
Yeah.
I did that.
I know. It's like, couldn't I have done that like the day after this?
It's like I'm reminded every day that I did this awful thing.
Yeah. Well, that's like she just like it's almost like punishment for what you did. And maybe that's like I don't know what Andy Samberg did in the first place besides just going into the cave. But it's like in any other movie, it would have been like that's why she's stuck in the time loop.
Well, that's what she thought.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's
And
what
it's
she
like
thought.
they throw you that bone to make you think that. But
Yeah.
also it's a great like character development.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Super
So I feel
good.
like we should just talk about the ending now that we're like
All right.
basically here. Is that cool?
Yeah, let's do it.
Like, do we think they stuck the landing?
100%.
I do too. I'm satisfied. Like I have like some questions, but I feel like that's better. Like they basically confirm it that they're out, but then like they kind of like with the last scene where they're in the pool and they're floating. And I love that like immediately after they supposedly get out of the time loop, they're doing exactly the same shit they were doing when they were in the time loop, which is like on floaties in the pool. And then those people come home.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. So it's like they're not really there, right? I don't know.
Yeah, they get out. It's implied. Oh,
But
yeah,
I read that they filmed like a bunch of different endings because they didn't know how they wanted to end it. And I thought this one worked for me.
Yeah, they definitely got out because they had that scene when they first go to the pool. He's like, this is my safe place. And the people that own this place are out on vacation. Yeah. They're like, when are they coming back? He's like, I don't know, but it's not today. And then the last scene is they're in the pool
and then they
come back. He's like, I guess they came back the next day.
Yeah.
She's like, you have a dog? Like,
yeah. I love that. And I wrote down that he was like, what did I say? I really loved the way that they said he's one of them shaggy dogs. But also that like she makes like 2 your mom jokes in a row. Like when they walk into the cave with the explosive and he's like, I was thinking we should go on a date or something, like watch dinner. She's like, yeah, go to your mom's house. And he's like, okay, that was a mistake. And then she's like, oh, your mom was a mistake. I was just like, I love that. Like, that's just perfect. Like, not what you typically get after the big sweet speech. Because as soon as he finishes his whole speech, she's also like, all right, are you done? Like, okay, let's move on. Like, thanks for apologizing. I'm ready to get back to things.
I think the thing that this movie did better than any other stuck in a time loop movie is it made me care about the characters more than the gimmick.
Yeah.
You're like,
you have to bring something else to the table if you're using the gimmick. It's usually just a device to get you to tell another story. And if it's actually a worthwhile story to tell, which
Like,
I thought, 100%.
I think they nailed the story. Like Groundhog's Day, you're just watching it to watch Bill Murray have fun. It's great. It's wonderful. Edge of Tomorrow, it's an action sci-fi movie. Like you're watching it for because you like sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
Happy Death Day, it's horror comedy. There's a little bit more character stuff with that. But
I think it has some interesting things to say in that movie too. That's what surprised me is it also looked really bad when I saw the trailers. And I was like, that looks stupid. Mm-hmm. And then you were like, I think even saying those movies are so good. And so I finally watched both of them and I was like, fuck, I love these movies. Jesus Christ. But I feel like these kind of like comedy mixed with something, typically they don't necessarily look great by the trailers. I never saw the trailer for this movie, but you know, there's so much sometimes that like they might use this kind of a device or whatever, and it seems familiar and like, oh, it's just a reboot or remake, whatever. But it's always a nice surprise because if they bring something else to the table and have something to like actually get through to you and have not to make it like elevated, because fuck, I hate that. Like elevated horror, you know, it's like shut up. It doesn't it can also be stupid and fun, right? I enjoy that this movie has both, and I think that's cool when movies can incorporate like silliness but also seriousness, and this movie did so much more than I anticipated, really, at all. I didn't think that there would even be anything like that. Almost It was like, this will be like a silly lighthearted thing.
Well, and I also really love how this movie kind of like paints it kind of lets people define like how they find their peace. Like we have the post-credit scene of J.K. Simmons, and like that's like a fun thing. It's funny, it's cool. But like if that wasn't there, I still would have been totally happy with how they kind of wrapped that character up, and like he found peace in this thing. Yeah. And like it was kind of beautiful. And then these two, it was like their story of nothing matters to maybe nothing does matter, but what we have matters. Like, I don't know. There's just
maybe
so
the
much
rest
stuff
doesn't matter. It's long as like you find your, what does he say to him like earlier in the movie? To find your, I hope you find your something. I forget what it was. It's probably a great line, and I just totally spaced on it. But it was when he was like, you know, looking at his kids and thinking about that, which I also wrote. The one thing I didn't write down the great line, but I wrote that he was, when he was talking about how his son, he's like, he's over there fucking watering dog shit. What the hell is that? What the hell is that about? And I was just like, I read in the trivia that his daughter was doing, but they were both doing something that like wouldn't work. So like watering something that wouldn't grow. It's like basically like a time loop, right? Like everybody's doing stuff that like it really won't work or something. I don't know. Yeah. It was funny. So I was like, but I wrote that down. That probably took over in my mind because it was hilarious. I was like, yeah, why is that kid watering fucking dog shit? What's gonna grow from that?
I feel like this movie could mean different things to different people at different stages of a relationship that they're in. Like if you're in the early stage of a relationship, the last couple lines kind of bubble up like when you're exiting the early stage, like when everything's exciting and then things start to get a little familiar. Is like, what if we hate each other? You know, it's like that's a fear of like, what if we get old? What if we get bored of each other or anything?
What
like,
if we get old? Hey, if we stay here, we won't ever get old. but it's like, what if we get bored? What if we get too comfortable? What if we start like looking elsewhere? Like it's always all these scary thoughts. But yeah, you're right. And that hits home with like everybody, whether you're like, oh, we're about to get married, or maybe we're just like gonna get a pet, or
is my
we're
sister
just started
fucking
dating.
my fiance?
Yes, which like, my God, I would murder her. But also the one other thing I was like, I need to rewatch this movie just so I can write down that entire maid of honor speech that she nails at the end, because my sister just got engaged and I'm gonna fucking steal that. I don't know if she's seen this movie, but I have a feeling she wouldn't remember it verbatim anyways. And I might just steal it because I hate fucking writing speeches. I'm terrible at it. I felt like the movie was just, it was for something that deals with stuff that's so dark. It was also like still positive and like a fun time. Most of those like time loop movies, it's either they're like too lighthearted or like too dark sometimes. So this was like a perfect in the middle, and I really enjoyed everything about it. I like it all.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the regular exclusive podcast. We hope that you enjoyed Palm Springs as much as we did, but we're doing something a little bit different this next week. We're actually watching two movies. One of the movies, actually both movies, I haven't seen probably since they came out, like 2008, 2012 range. Renee, what movies are we watching?
All right. Well, we're going to be watching, we're doing a double feature this week. You might not know at first why these two movies connect, but we promise we will fill in the blanks on that next week when we discuss The Mist and This Is the End, which totally different genres, but you'll find there's a lot of similarities that really surprise both of us, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These movies are a shockingly odd pairing that really work, and highly recommend watching both of them.
Yeah, and just we'd also recommend to do it in the order that we said. Just you'll find out why later on if you haven't seen either of them. But yeah, go ahead and start with The Mist and then finish up with This Is the End. That'll be your homework until we see you next week.
And the Mist is available on Netflix, and This Is the End is available. It's included with Stars, or you can rent it anywhere else. All that stuff. So, everyone, thank you for listening to the regular exclusive podcast, and we'll see you guys soon.
Stay cool.
Stay fresh.